just got her acceptance letter to NYU today, I said, placing the envelope gently on the table as my father reached for another spoonful of mashed potatoes. I was smiling, proud. I had worked 3 jobs for 4 years. Every spare dollar went into that college fund. No vacations, no splurges, no emergencies unless it involved Ellie. That's nice, Dad said flatly, not even looking up. How much does that fancy school cost these days? I looked at him slightly confused. Well, with the age she got and what I've saved in the 529, it'll cover... You're still using that account? He interrupted. Silence fell across the table. What do you mean? I asked, slowly straightening. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos. And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us, what would you do in this situation? Be honest. Tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. My stepmother, Veronica, sipped her wine and looked at him, but he didn't flinch. I drained it last month, he said casually. We needed the down payment for the Myrtle Beach property. I thought I misheard him. My brain refused to process the words at first. You what? I whispered. I told you, he repeated, now looking straight at me. You're not entitled to that money. I built that fund. I moved it under my name years ago for tax reasons. You didn't ask, and I didn't offer. That was Ellie's future, I said, breath shaky. You've known that from day one. Veronica laughed, that slow, condescending chuckle she always used when she wanted to rub something in. Sweetheart, don't act like a victim. You think working at that law firm entitles you to act like royalty? We've had to struggle too. Struggle? I snapped. You live in a lakefront house and drive a Mercedes. What part of that looks like struggle? You and Ellie will be fine, my dad said, wiping his mouth. She can take out loans like the rest of us. We deserved that money more. We needed to make a move and timing mattered. You wouldn't understand. I stood up stunned and my chair fell back with a loud crack. You stole from your own granddaughter, I said, shaking now. No, he replied coolly. I took what was mine. When I got back home that night, my husband Cole was out back fixing the gate light. I didn't even get a word out before I collapsed into his arms, shaking with rage and betrayal. What happened? He asked, holding me tighter. They drained Ellie's college fund. My dad, Veronica, they used it to buy a beach property. I choked. He said they deserved it more. Cole didn't blink. He kissed my temple, calmly pulled his gloves off and said, Honey, don't worry, I'll handle it. And when Cole says that, you don't ask questions. By midnight, Veronica was screaming at the top of her lungs outside our wrought iron gate. My dad stood beside her, red-faced, fists clenched, threatening to call the police. The security cam caught everything. You had no right to do that, Veronica shrieked, banging the gate. Cole walked out, coffee in hand, shirtless in gray sweatpants like it was any other night. You had no right to steal from my daughter, he said with a smirk. What did you do? My dad barked. Cole took a long sip, then said calmly, You remember that beach property you just bought? What about it? My dad growled. You signed it with a fraudulent transfer, under a trust that Ellie's name was still legally tied to, Cole said. I had our family lawyer pull the original filings. You just gave your granddaughter probable cause to seize it. Temporarily, of course, until the court makes a decision. My dad paled. Veronica looked like she'd swallowed glass. You're bluffing, she hissed. Cole smiled wider. Then, by all means, call your lawyer. Oh, and the HOA president. He already received notice that the property may be subject to seizure. He was very interested in the potential headlines. You'll pay for this, my dad spat. No, Cole said, stepping closer. You already did. That night, I watched them pace outside the gate, panicking, yelling, caught on camera from every angle. And for once, I didn't feel powerless. Veronica showed up at my office the next morning, uninvited, unannounced, and wearing oversized sunglasses indoors like she thought she was still somebody important. She barged in, ignoring my assistant's protests, slamming her manicured hand on my desk like she owned the place. You think you're clever? She hissed. I looked up slowly from the contract I was reviewing. I don't need to be clever, I said, voice calm. I just need to protect my daughter, something you clearly don't understand. She yanked off her sunglasses, eyes red and puffy. Do you have any idea what you've started? The HOA filed a complaint. The mortgage is frozen. Your father is humiliated. I leaned back in my chair. Good. He should be. You've always been jealous, she spat, ever since I married your father. And you've always mistaken cruelty for class, I said. Now get out of my office. You're going to regret this, she snapped. Not as much as Ellie would have regretted trusting me if I let you two walk away with her future, I replied. She stormed out, slamming the door so hard a framed photo rattled off the wall. I didn't flinch. At home, Cole was already 2 steps ahead. While I was standing my ground at work, he was quietly working the real strings behind the scenes. Legal documents, media inquiries, even hiring a private investigator, not to dig up dirt, to expose what was already rotting under the surface. That weekend, Cole and I sat down with Ellie. She was, curled on the couch, hoodie drawn up, knees pulled to her chest. I know it's not fair, I told her gently, but we're going to fix it. She looked up, eyes wide with fear. What if I can't go? What if the dream's over? Cole sat down beside her, took her hand. Kid, he said, you're going to NYU. If I have to drive the dean personally or sell my truck, I'll make it happen. And as for your grandpa, he just wrote the last chapter in the wrong book. She nodded slowly, then looked at me. Did he really say he deserved it more? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The silence said it all. On Monday, the local paper's digital front page headlined, Prominent retiree accused of misappropriating granddaughter's college funds for luxury property. Underneath was a photo of my dad and Veronica smiling during the beach house ribbon cutting last week. Cole didn't call any journalists. He didn't have to. The HOA president leaked everything himself. Turns out, he had a daughter who was conned out of her inheritance by her stepmom too. Small world. My dad tried to call. I didn't answer. He emailed me, subject line, "Let's talk." I deleted it. Veronica, on the other hand, took a different route. She started telling anyone who would listen that Cole and I fabricated the entire case, that we hacked into their accounts, that we were the greedy ones. But Veronica never had the one thing that makes lies stick: evidence. A few days later, I got a call from a real estate investor in Myrtle Beach. "Your father listed the property for quick sale," he said, "but the legal red flags are scaring buyers off." I almost laughed. They were bleeding cash. HOA fines, frozen mortgage, lawsuit threats, media pressure. And still, my dad hadn't apologized. Not once. That's when I realized some people don't feel guilt. They feel defeat, and he was drowning in it. That night, I lay awake beside Cole. "Do you think we did too much?" I asked. He turned to face me. "No." She used to braid Ellie's hair. She sat at her birthday parties. I trusted them. Cole pulled me closer. They crossed a line, and the only thing worse than crossing it is never being held accountable for it. I stared at the ceiling. My own father, the man who once told me bedtime stories, the man who cried when Ellie was born. He stole from her and said he deserved it more. We received an anonymous tip 2 days later from a bank manager. Apparently, Veronica had withdrawn over $40,000 from an old retirement account tied to my name, one I didn't even know still existed. The manager flagged it when Veronica insisted she was me, even presenting an expired ID. My hands went cold as I read the report. "She tried to empty everything," I whispered. Cole was already dialing the lawyer. "That's identity fraud," he said flatly. "And grand larceny," I added. We looked at each other. Veronica wasn't just cruel, she was criminal. By Wednesday morning, the fraud complaint was filed. Cole and our attorney, a quiet bulldog named Marissa Fields, didn't waste a second. She'd dealt with family theft cases before. But even she looked stunned as she flipped through the documentation Veronica had signed. "She actually forged your signature?" she asked, lifting her glasses. "That's bold." "She always thought she was smarter than everyone," I said, trying not to let my voice shake. Cole leaned forward. "Can we press charges?" "Oh, you don't just press charges for this," Marissa said. "You build a case that chokes them in court. I'll file for financial injunction today. If she's hiding more accounts under your name, we'll find them." By Thursday night, Veronica's mugshot hit the news. She had turned herself in quietly, thought no one would notice. But the internet is fast. Within hours, her HOA chat group lit up. Comments exploded. Words like fraud, liar, con woman. And my dad? He disappeared. Turned off his phone, deleted Facebook, pulled out of his Friday tennis club. Cowardice wrapped in silence. Ellie didn't speak much that week. She'd always been quiet, but this was different. She started skipping meals. Her college brochures gathered dust on the kitchen table. I found her crying in the bathroom once. She tried to hide it, said she had a headache, but I saw the rejection forming in her eyes. "He ruined everything," she whispered. "It's not just the money. It's what he took from me." Cole knelt beside her. "No one can take your worth, Ellie," he said. "You hear me? Not even blood." She nodded, but I knew the hurt ran deeper than anything money could touch. A few days later, Marissa called. "There's more," she said. "Apparently, Veronica and my dad had opened a shell company using my social security number. They had funneled payments through it for years. Everything from landscaping bills to personal travel. That's why they thought the 529 account was fair game. They'd been laundering through my identity long before they drained it." My stomach turned. They didn't just steal from Ellie. They'd been quietly stealing from me for over a decade. Cole didn't say a word when I told him. He just walked into the garage and stayed there for 3 hours. By the time he came out, he had a plan. He'd found out that my father and Veronica's newly purchased beach property, already frozen in legal hell, had been refinanced using a fraudulent business valuation through a contact of Veronica's cousin. That cousin? Under investigation already for other shady property flips in South Carolina. And Cole? He quietly tipped off the right people. This wasn't revenge anymore. This was justice. I got a call at work from Veronica's sister, a woman I hadn't spoken to in 10 years. "I warned her," she said. "I told her not to mess with your husband. Cole's not the kind of man you cross." "She thought he'd never get involved," I said. "She forgets that the quiet ones are the ones who bring the storm." The storm came the following Monday. IRS real estate fraud investigators, civil litigation attorneys, all knocking on the door of that fake beach dream. Veronica's arrest was just the appetizer. My father was now the main course. The financial investigators' report labeled him as the primary beneficiary of the shell accounts. Veronica had acted on his orders. That was the moment everything shifted. The moment the house of cards finally crashed. And still, he had the audacity to email me. "You're tearing this family apart." I laughed. Cole didn't. He replied, "You set it on fire first." The civil suit was filed 2 days later. Amount sought, $327,000. The full estimated damages caused by their identity theft, embezzlement, and illegal usage of college funds. They would lose everything. The cars, the house, the beach property, the retirement plans. Everything they stole would now go toward paying back what was never theirs. The local news ran a segment titled, "Justice for Ellie. Grandparents face charges for stealing college fund." Ellie didn't want to watch it, but Cole sat beside her and made her. "Not for revenge," he said, "for closure." She watched in silence as Veronica's name scrolled across the screen, then my father's, then my face, listed under plaintiff. I thought she'd cry, but she didn't. She just whispered, "Thank you," and leaned into Cole's side. That night, Cole and I sat in the backyard, watching the wind rustle the trees. "Do you think it's over?" I asked. "No," he said, "but the worst part is." 3 weeks later, we got the court date. Veronica's preliminary hearing would be held that Friday. My father's would follow the next month. But he couldn't hide anymore. His name was already plastered across local news outlets, HOA message boards, and real estate groups. He went from respected retiree to public disgrace in a matter of days. And Ellie? She still hadn't spoken to him. Not once. But she was changing. Something was hardening inside her. Some invisible wall she had once used to keep out pain was now being rebuilt with steel. One morning, I walked past her room and caught her watching a video of her 8th birthday party. My dad was in the background, laughing, holding her on his shoulders. She paused the video, then deleted it. "I don't want to remember him anymore," she said quietly when I entered. I sat on the edge of her bed. "You don't have to forget the good memories," I said. "Just understand that the man in them chose to become someone else." "I get that," she said, "but I'm done making space for people who don't make space for me." At Veronica's hearing, she showed up in pearls and designer heels. She thought it would save her. It didn't. The prosecutor laid out the charges in perfect rhythm. Identity theft, wire fraud, grand larceny, unauthorized access of a financial account, use of a minor's educational trust for personal gain. She tried to speak, tried to paint herself as misunderstood, confused, coerced, but no one bought it. Cole leaned over during the proceedings and whispered, "She still thinks this is a negotiation." But it wasn't. By the end of the day, she was out on bail, but shackled in every way that mattered. And then, the letter came. Ellie received a handwritten letter in the mail from my father. No return address. Just his handwriting, once so familiar, now heavy with weight. She opened it, read it in silence, then slid it across the table. "I did what I had to do for our future. One day you'll understand. I hope you don't hate me." Cole took one glance at it, then tossed it straight into the shredder. "Too little. Way too late," he muttered. But Ellie didn't flinch, not even a tear. Instead, she asked a question I didn't expect. "Can I go see him?" We debated it. Cole said no. I said I wasn't sure, but Ellie insisted. "I don't want to scream at him," she said. "I want him to see that I survived without him." That Friday after school, we took her to the courthouse. My father was being escorted out the side entrance with his attorney. He didn't expect to see her there, and when he did, his face cracked. "Ellie," he stammered, pausing mid-step. She didn't run, didn't yell, didn't cry. She stood still, chin raised, her voice steady. "I'm going to NYU, she said. He blinked. "I got a scholarship, partial, and someone who actually cares about me covered the rest." She looked past him to Cole, who waited in the car. My father's face twisted, maybe with guilt, maybe regret, maybe rage. It didn't matter. "Why are you here?" he asked, voice thin. "To tell you," she said. "You don't have any power over me anymore. Not even a little." She turned, walked away. And for the first time since this began, I cried. Because that wasn't a teenager. That was a woman. The next week, the real estate investigator uncovered something deeper. Veronica had been secretly using the shell company to launder money not just from us, but from others. 3 elderly clients of hers from a financial consulting side gig had also reported suspicious withdrawals. The case widened, and suddenly, she was looking at federal time. My father? He cut a deal. Testify against Veronica, admit to financial negligence, return all assets in his name tied to Ellie's trust, and he'd avoid prison, just lose everything else. He signed, and just like that, the man who once told me I was overly emotional for not trusting Veronica had nothing left but his name, and not even that held value anymore. Meanwhile, something else was happening. Ellie started smiling again. Not much, not all the time. But she began playing music. Again, sketching on her tablet, laughing with Cole over dinner. She even joked with me one night, I should put Grand Theft Grandpa on a t-shirt. We all laughed so hard we cried. A week before she left for college, Cole surprised her. He took her to the garage and pulled a canvas sheet off something big. It was a vintage bike, her favorite model from a poster in her room. "I rebuilt it myself," he said. "You'll need wheels in New York." She didn't say a word, just hugged him, long, hard. "Thank you for never giving up on me," she whispered. "I never will," he replied. As we packed her bags, I found an old frame photo in her drawer. It was from a family barbecue years ago. My dad, me, Veronica, Ellie. I thought she was going to throw it away, but she didn't. She turned it over, wrote something on the back, then tucked it away in a box labeled, "Things that no longer hurt." The morning Ellie left for college was quiet, too quiet, the kind of silence that settles over a house when something sacred is about to shift. She walked down the stairs, rolling her suitcase behind her, wearing that NYU hoodie she bought with her first part-time paycheck, her hair tied in a loose bun, her face calm, but her eyes heavy with emotion. Cole stood near the door, pretending not to look choked up. I didn't even bother pretending. I pulled her into a hug and held on longer than I should have. "You sure you have everything?" I asked. "Yeah," she smiled. "Even the framed photo." I blinked. "The old one?" She nodded. "Backside only. What I wrote helps me remember the truth." I wanted to ask what it said, but I didn't. It was hers now, her story to finish. As we pulled up to the terminal, Cole parked and turned toward her. "Ellie," he said, "don't let what they did define you. Let what you did next be the part people remember." She nodded slowly, then looked out the window. "Funny. I don't feel angry anymore." "That's called healing," I said softly. She turned back, smiled, and whispered, "I'm proud of us." And with that, She walked through the doors, head held high. 2 weeks later, my father tried to reach out again, this time through a lawyer. He wanted a meeting, said he had something to set straight. I declined. I didn't need apologies that came after the fall. Cole simply said, "We've closed that door." Veronica's case went federal. Fraud, exploitation of vulnerable adults, identity theft. She pleaded guilty to reduce her sentence, but there was no walking away from this. She would serve 5 years. My father? He lost his pension and restitution, sold his car, moved into a small rental in a neighboring town. No friends, no pride, just silence. And us? We moved forward. Ellie thrived at NYU. She got a part-time internship in her second semester and wrote an op-ed for the school paper titled, "When Bloodline Breaks, Choose Yourself Anyway." It went viral. She didn't name names, but everyone who knew, knew. One night, Cole found her note on the back of that old photo she took with her. He read it out loud to me. It said, "You can break my heart, but I'll still build something beautiful from the pieces." And that's exactly what we did. We built a life no one could steal, a future